Yes, welcome to our question 3. Yes, question 3 is asking, there are various approaches an organization can use in human resource accounting. So there are various approaches that an organization can use in human resource accounting. Explain the methods of human resource accounting. Now, as earlier, I did say that human resource accounting is trying to find the value of the cost that the organization spends in personnel within an organization. This means that the human resource department incurs different costs on personnel, right from its first activities of recruiting employees, training these employees during inductions and onboarding, of course, conducting continuous training and development of the employees within an organization, and prompting incentives and motivations, salaries on the employees, determining the amount of salaries and the wages that employees earn. All those are part of the expenses within the human resource department. Then the question will be, then how does an organization, how does it get value, or what is the value that it gets after spending all these costs within the human resource department? So we want to look at how do you quantify now the value of the cost that is being spent within the human resource department. So the first method will be historical cost method. The historical cost method means that we look at past costs that we have incurred to determine the value of the cost that we incurred. So here we go back that we have the employee on board. Already the employee has been onboarded, he has been trained. So we look at the cost that the human resource incurred in bringing this employee to this organization, or in onboarding this employee to this organization. So the historical, the history cost, or the historical costs that were incurred were, for example, the cost that was incurred during recruitment, like advertising cost. Maybe like some organizations can hire HR for the purpose of recruitment. Others will hire different services onboarding, like hiring a venue to conduct an interview, and such kind of costs up to the time when this employee, including even the cost of inducting and training this employee. So this method states that this method records the actual costs incurred in acquiring and developing an employee. It includes the expenses such as recruitment, selection, orientation, induction training, and any initial job-related development programs. So the historical cost method treats human capital like other fixed assets, using original cost as the valuation basis. So however, it doesn't or it does not account for the increase in employee value over time due to the experience or further trainings. So like, for example, we have given an example whereby we have said that the HR at a customer service, at a customer care firm can record that its cost of it incurred a cost of 150,000 to hire and train a new call center agent. So this figure includes the job advertising, interview time, training materials, and even the onboarding costs and all that. So the value is recorded as human capital investment, just like how office equipment is accounted for within an organization. The second method is the replacement cost method. This method estimates the current cost of replacing an existing employee with another similar caliber. So what this means is that an employee or different employees can resign, or they can be fired from an organization. So when you, especially let's say for example you have an employee turnover. So if an employee resigns, that position needs to be replaced. So then we quantify, we'll try to look at how much cost are we going to incur in replacing an employee within a specific position. So what this helps us is that we can quantify if, for example, let's say assume that it costs us 400,000 to replace an employee or one employee, then what does it mean if 10 employees are to be replaced? For example, through them resigning, or even losing the being out of job through whatever methods. So what cost? So it means that if one employee's cost is going to take us 400,000 to replace one position, then it means that if 10 employees, probably we are likely to spend like 4 million. So this will then help the HR institution and the entire organization to come up with the right strategies in terms of how then we can be able to retain more employees rather than having these employees costing because the replacement cost becomes too high. So this method estimates the current cost of replacing an existing employee with another similar caliber. So it considered the prevailing market salaries, recruitment expenses, and when you're talking about market salaries, it means that the new employee who is coming might not take the salary offer that the previous employee was taking. So the salary of the new employee might be higher depending on the negotiation. And also sometimes you find due to different market factors, also the salaries or the range of the salaries might be could have changed due to different factors based on what the previous employee was earning. So we need to consider such kind of issues like markets, prevailing market salaries, recruitment expenses, onboarding, and productivity, ramp-up time. And so unlike the historical cost, this method reflects on real-time labor market dynamics and helps managers to understand the financial impact of losing the key personnel. So like I've given an example, if a senior accountant leaves a private hospital, then the HR determines that it will now cost around almost 400,000 to recruit, train, and onboard a new accountant with equivalent experience and qualifications. So this valuation is especially relevant when considering the successional planning and also even the negotiation retention packages, so that probably we don't have to incur such kind of huge costs. The third method is the standard costing method. The standard costing method, here you find that we group different jobs within specific categories, and then we allocate a specific cost within that group. So we are saying that, for example, if we are talking about employing sales officers within an organization, then we can put that the cost that has been put for employing one sales officer is 50,000. So even if we are going to employ 10, then each recruitment, or if each employee who is going to be recruited, the cost of recruiting, training, and onboarding that employee each will cost 50,000. So if you are 10, the budget that is going to be allocated for that exercise will be 500,000. So under this approach of standard cost method, employees are grouped by category or job roles and assigned a fixed standard cost based on the average historical or industrial-wide figures. So it is a simplified, simplified form of valuation used mainly for budgeting purposes rather than accurate valuation. So it doesn't reflect the employee's specific performance or potential. Just like I've given an example there, that a private hospital may assign a standard cost of 500,000 to every nurse on staff-based on average hiring and training cost across previous years. So this standard figure is then used in preparing the hospital is HR budget, even though some nurses may be more skilled or experienced than others. Then now, we have the fourth method, which is the present value of future earnings. Now, the present value of future earnings here is that we take into consideration, probably through speculation, we are likely to have that this employee is likely to be in this organization for, let's say, the next 10 or 15 years. Then we are quantifying the salary for this employee, and we are saying that this employee annual salary is almost 1 million. Then our projection is that this employee is likely to be paid 10 years. If it's going to be 10 years, so 1 million times 10 years is likely to take home 10 million for the next 10 years, or 15 million for the next 15 years. So the present value of future earning, this method estimates the current worth of an employee's future earnings to the organization over their period of service. So it's based on the assumption that employees' earnings reflect their contribution to the company. So a discount rate is applied to future income to calculate the present value, and this method is especially useful in long-term workforce planning. So like an example, as I've given there, an engineer on a construction company is expected to remain with the company for another 10 years. So this makes him, because this engineer earns 1 million annually, so the HR calculates the human capital value as being 10 million discounted to today's value. So this gives a forward-looking measure of employees' value, which is helpful in retention strategies or even internal promotions. The fifth method is the economic value method. So the economic value method measures an employee's value based on the income or profits they help generate. So it ties the human capital directly to business output, particularly the roles linked to measurable financial performance. So this method is highly relevant for departments like sales, marketing, and the production, where individual output directly affects the revenue. So in other words, we are quantifying and trying to look at compared to what the employee is earning, then how much contribution is this employee bringing forward. So like for example, employees in sales department who are earning based most of them on commission, is like the more commission you are earning, that is a reflection that you are contributing more to the organization. The lesser contribution you are earning, it means that you are contributing less compared your input to the income of the organization is that less. So a sales executive, for example, at a manufacturing company who generates 10 million in annual revenue can be considered highly valuable based on the profit they bring in. So the HR uses this figure to support performance-based rewards or even to assess the financial risks for potential turnover. This will help you to ensure that you have strategies in terms of how you can be able to retain the top talent and skilled employees who are more who are bringing more value to the organization. Then we have the sixth method, the opportunity cost method. Opportunity cost method in human resource accounting refers to the value of the next best alternative forgone if the employee were not working with the current organization. So it is determined by what another employer is willing to pay for the same employee. So this method is often used for senior or high demand professionals whose external job offers reveal their market value. Like for example, we can talk about a software developer working at Nairobi-based tech startup receives a job offer from Google worth 3.5 million per year. So the HR may use this external offer as a valuation benchmark, recognizing the developer's market value and using it to negotiate retention terms or justify the salary adjustments for this particular position. So those are the different methods that we can use in quantifying the human resource capital. Now let's move to question 2. Question 2 asks the second part of this question 3. Mr. Joseph, the human resource manager at ABC Limited, is considering various methods of communicating human resource reports. Discuss the factors that should guide the choice of communication methods. So, Mr. Joseph, the human resource manager at ABC Limited, is considering various methods of communicating human resource reports. Discuss the factors that should guide the choice of communication method. Now, when you talk about human resource reports, these are reports that are prepared by the human resource. For example, they can be performance reports, they can be assessment reports, and the likes. So there are different factors that can be considered when communicating the HR reports. First is the audience type, the type of audience that the information is to be communicated to. So understanding the audience is the key effective factor to communication of the HR reports. So there are different stakeholders to whom the reports can be communicated to. For example, the report maybe can be presented to the board of directors. The report can be, these reports are being represented maybe to the CEO of the organization. It can be these reports are being submitted or forwarded or communicated to the employees themselves within specific organization and all that. So understanding the audience that the reports are supposed to be or are being submitted to becomes a very key factor to determine the effective communication. So different stakeholders have different levels of interests, technical knowledge, and even decision-making roles. So for example, the executive on board and the board members often prefer summaries in terms of presenting the reports. They prefer visuals, like for example, charts, graphs, to give the presentation and analysis of the reports and the key takeaways in terms, the key points in terms of the reports. While when it comes to the HR analysts or the auditors, they might need some more details and data-heavy tables that justify the information within the report. So like for example, when presenting a workforce turnover data to the CEO, the HR may use simple graphs or even infographics showing the trends and key figures. So for internal HR teams, a detailed spreadsheet with breakdowns by department, gender, and even role is more suitable in such kind of grouping. The second factor is the purpose of the report. You need to consider, what is the purpose of the report? Is this report supposed to help, let's say for example, the executive in terms of decision making? Is this report supposed to be able to alert the employees to be able to improve their performance? Is this report supposed to be used in determining the rewarding and motivation that are supposed to be given to the key employees who are performing well depending on their performance? So we need to determine the purpose of the report. The reason behind generating the reports heavily influences its format and details. So a strategic planning report will focus on trends and projections to guide future actions. So whereas a compliance report must strictly adhere to the legal and the procedural standards. Like for example, a diversity report submitted to the National Gender and the Equality Commission must meet a specific format with verified demographic data. So in contrast, an internal HR strategy document on workforce planning may take a more flexible and a narrative style. Third, we look at the confidentiality. HR reports often contain sensitive personal or organizational information. So therefore, they must be handled securely to avoid the data breaches. So the data breaches, the legal consequences, and even the reputational damage. For example, the HR reports, the HR has got information about the employees, about the health status of the employees, the medical information of the employees, the performance, so that's it has got a lot of private information about the employees. So sometimes ensuring that those reports are not jeopardizing the confidentiality of the information of the people or the employees within is very key. So the HR must, all these reports must be handled securely to ensure that it avoids the data breaches, the legal consequences, and the reputational damage. So the sensitivity of the content determines whether to use encryption, restricted access, or non-digital delivery methods in terms of handling these reports. So, like for example, a disciplinary case file or a salary report for senior managers should be shared only with authorized personnel via password-protected PDFs or secure cloud-based folders such as Google Drive with restricted access, so that private information is not the name. Sorry, I'm missing the word. So that private information is not taken out or is not given to third parties who are not supposed to access that information. The fourth factor is the urgency of the reports or the information within the reports. So when the issue at hand is urgent, such as labor dispute, strike threats, or even high level resignation, reports should be communicated rapidly through direct channels like phone calls or even emergency meetings rather than email. Because if somebody sent an email and maybe this person is required, for example, it's on a Friday, this person is required to attend an emergency meeting on Saturday, this person might not check the email over the weekend. So which means that this meeting is going to bypass him, or he's not going to get the information about the meeting. So the best way to have communicated such kind of information is to probably use a phone call to ensure that the person gets information directly. So like example, if workers at a factory at Machako stage a sudden protest, the HR manager must notify their operations director immediately via phone or an in-person meeting, not through a scheduled report or delayed emails that are not going to, or that will make people miss important information within the specific time that they could have. Then there's another factor in terms of data complexity. So when reports involve complex data, or complex metrics such as turnover analysis, compensation ratios, or even engagement survey results, visualization tools such as charts, dashboards, and even infographics will help simplify the data and make it accessible even to non-HR professionals. So sometimes some data might be complex. For example, the data being given has got figures and even the titles whereby some stakeholders, even if they read that data, they cannot be able to understand. So the usage of supporting tools like charts and the infographics makes it simple that the people, even the people without the technical knowledge, can be able to read the reports and be able to make sense out of the information that has been given. So like for example, the HR at Kenya Airways may use the Power BI dashboards to present a real-time workforce analytics to department heads, highlighting areas with which overtime cost or absenteeism has been noted. The other factor, the sixth factor, is the technology infrastructure. So when selecting how to communicate the HR data, consider the recipient is access to digital tools and internet connectivity. In some cases, especially in remote areas or field settings, offline and printed reports may be necessary. So sometimes when we are giving the reports, when information reports are being given, the question is that, do we ensure that these people are well connected or are well connected, yes, to technology? So like for example, there's a trend that is coming nowadays whereby the instant messaging in terms of, like for example, WhatsApp is becoming so common that most groups and organizations within the organization are using WhatsApp for communication. So when we decide that now the manager that, yes, we have a WhatsApp group that within our organization, but now as a manager, if I want to send important information, my first consideration should be like, are all the employees connected to WhatsApp so that they are able to get the message immediately? So sometimes you call for a meeting, probably half of the employees do not attend the meeting, and the explanation, the excuse is that we did not get the information about the meeting. Then the manager says that I had sent the message on WhatsApp, and these employees will be right by saying that I have not been WhatsApp for the last like 2 or 3 days, so I could not get the message. So probably the best way of communication should have been maybe like ensuring that you have they're using the notespot, so you have the internal memo on the notespot, for example, or you are doing a personal call, or you are doing a text message and stuff like that. The most important thing is to ensure that you justify and verify that the employees are able to get the information that is supposed to be passed to them. So we need to ensure that the reports or technological infrastructure is a factor to consider before deciding on using a technological method in sending the reports. Like for example, the HR reports sent to county health officers in rural Kenya may need to be delivered in hard copy or via portable drive, as internet access might be limited in those such kind of locations. Then consider the factors like feedback recruitment. Some HR reports are intended to trigger discussion, decisions, and your collaborative input. So in such cases, the communication method should enable dialogue, such as using virtual collaboration platforms, meetings, or workshops, and all that. So in a situation whereby you are presenting a report and you expect to collect feedback and you expect to get the reaction of the employees within an organization, the best way is to use a platform that is able to trigger feedback and discussion in such kind of platform. Like for example, meetings, or conducting a virtual meetings, whether it's a physical meetings or a virtual, or even workshops and all that, whereby the employees can be able to get opportunities to be able to give their contribution or give feedback in line to the information that will be given to them. Of course, another method is about, or another factor to consider is in relation to regulatory compliance. Reports submitted to government agencies or industry regulators must comply with the statutory format and submission procedures. This ensures legality, uniformity, and the audit readiness. So some reports needs to ensure that they have specific features within the reports. Like for example, the HR at Kenya University must submit staff training records to NITA in a standardized Excel format. As per regulatory guidelines, non-compliance can result to penalties or even funding delays. Then we have another factor to consider is the organizational culture. The tone and the format of HR communication should align with the organizational culture. So a corporate formal organization may prefer structures, memos, and formal presentation, which NGOs or creative industries may favor informal reports or visual storytelling. So like for example, an NGO like HRMPEB may encourage HR to use inclusive language and storytelling format to report on employee wellness, whereas a bank like Cooperative Bank may expect formal written briefs with bullet points and signatures in terms of submission of the reports. And lastly, the factor to consider on this part is the clarity and simplicity. So regardless of the audience or purpose, all HR communication should be clear, concise, and free from unnecessary jargons. So simplicity enhances understanding and reduces the risk of misinterpretation, especially among the non-HR recipients. So we need to ensure that we are using simple and clear language. So like example, instead of saying we observed a 12% attrition rate, one should say out of 500 employees, 60 left the organization between January and March. So this will help all the department understand the message without needing HR specific knowledge in that manner. So those are the factors, and that is how we answer such kind of questions. Thank you.
So if you like this video, you can always enroll with us. You'll be able to access more of these revision sessions, and also you'll be able to find well done lectures or pre-recorded videos for all the KASNEB courses as well as CHRP. And in case of anything, you can always reach us out. We have our contact details on the screen. Feel free to call, feel free to WhatsApp anytime. So thank you, and let's meet in our next session.